All right, and welcome back to Real Talk. I am your host, Ryan Matthews, here with Jeffrey Klein today. And we are going to be talking about the two biggest lessons each of us learned in 2023 and how we're taking them going forward, not just into 2024, but into life.
Yeah, 100%. I think that,
Yeah, they're not, and they're completely applicable to business and life and everything. So go ahead with your first one.
Yeah, my first one is everything is harder than you think, right? I think that this year has really showed me that even though we kind of have some of the knowledge of 8 years of real estate, 5 years of real estate, pivoting a business has been more difficult than I anticipated. And it's been challenging, but exciting and rewarding. And I would also say, even other things too, right? Relationships, anything that is worth building is going to be harder than you think. And there will be seasons where you really have to work hard and you might not see much result, but you know that you're planting the seeds to get to where you need to be. That's my big lesson that's one of them for this year. So,
yeah. And how did you work through some of those? And what made you learn that lesson? What did you think would be easy that was way harder? And talk me through part of that.
Short version is, I thought that we would have closed more deals by now, just to be transparent, right? We pivoted our businesses away from Pinal County and Queen Creek, and we're pivoting into luxury in Paradise Valley and Scottsdale and Arcadia. And just that transition, we've been in an amazing position to get in front of the right people, and we can see the results coming. It's just hasn't happened yet. And then on a personal note, I've just been working on, Alana and I have been working on our marriage, on our relationship, and just realizing hey, even though we've been together for forever and we're best friends, there are still so many things we have to work on. And there's so many things that I have to work on to be the best husband and dad I can be, that putting in the hard work for that, sometimes you don't see the results, but you know that it's going to pay off in the end. And I think that's, like we said, this is applicable to any step of your life, whether it's working out, relationships, business building, just anything like that. It's just, everything is harder than you think it is. And as long as you still got to, you're never going to really mentally understand how difficult it is until you're in the middle of it. So.
Right. Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head with transitioning a business. And it's you can go in with these expectations.
Yes.
And if you just stick to those and you're not just allowing it to happen, life will happen to you.
Yeah.
But as long as, I think the biggest point is be the best you can do on any day.
Yeah.
And I think that's you've helped me learn that, where it's you have to continue to do it and you have to continue to work. And it's I agree with you on we thought we would have closed more transactions in having 6 months of working really fucking hard.
Yeah, dude. Open houses every weekend.
It's
follow-up, SOPs, building a brand, right? Going through the marketing aspect. We've done so much stuff I've done more in the last 6 months than I have probably in the last 2 to 3 years too, for real estate, right? Everything else was, granted the market was a little bit easier in the past too, but we picked a really weird time to transition our business.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, real estate market in 2023 is vastly different than 2020, 2021.
Right.
And so I think maybe that plays a part of what we're going through. But yeah, we've done more work in the last 6 months. I've done more open houses in the last 6 months than I have probably ever in my career.
Yeah.
So
I think you hit on a point too, where it's it's been really, yes, we don't have those tangible results of closings in the price point that we're really targeting. We've still had closings.
Yeah, we still had closings
with our sphere that we continue to market to, and it's not we're not helping people in
Yeah.
certain price ranges.
Yeah.
It's just what we're targeting in our price point.
Mhm.
But it's also it's so hard because we have met so many people that we're working with.
Yes.
And we're actively showing homes and we're actively working on selling their homes and staying in touch.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, one of the hardest things in this business I continue to learn.
Yeah.
Is that
Is this yours? Are you going to tell yours?
I will tell mine.
Okay.
Yeah. That you just have to continue to be there.
Yeah.
And it's we don't have that shiny closing to show for.
Mhm.
But it's not, we've also had to continue to say that this is where my lesson comes in.
Mhm.
We have to be properly aligned. And that's
Yes.
been over the last few years with my prior team, which was absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
we would, at the end of the year, we would plan for the next year. And each year, November, we would come up with a word of the year. And you start with this whole sheet of words. And it's like, okay, circle 20 that resonate with you. And then you have to pare those down. You pare those down, and then down to your one word. And my word of 2023 was align. And I use it in everything. And I've always wondered each year, I'm like, is this the right word? And I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, like which came first, but it always seems to be perfect.
Yeah.
Where it was like 1 year was focus, 1 year was authenticity, and last year was alignment. And it's helped me make decisions where it's like, it's almost like red light, green light. It's like, is like, if I was going to do something, is like, is this aligned with my values right now? And it's like it's not necessarily overall values. It's like, is this the direction that I'm going in right now? And being properly aligned. Like I talked to another agent in our office last week. And she said the same thing. She said, that's my word of the year. And it really was. It's like, you have to really focus on, before you do anything, it's so easy in life to just kind of bump our way through it. Like there's so many decisions that that we do on a daily basis that like you are on autopilot so many times.
Yeah.
And to be properly aligned, you really think about decisions. Like just before we got on here, there were cookies in the office.
Yes.
And it was like, does that align with what I want to eat? And I was like, no. Like, and these stack. It's like the words don't just go away.
Yeah.
Like word of 2024 for me is grit. So it's like, hey, you know what? Like, and part of that is like bleeding in from 2023 is like, we had to be freaking gritty on a lot of things.
Very much
and
so.
and really stick to a lot of things. And that's where it's like, is this aligned? If this is aligned with where I want to go, now I just need grit to stick with it.
Yeah.
Until I make a decision, it's like, hey, if this is no longer aligns, then it doesn't.
And I mean, so you presented your word to me probably around the same time we made the switch. And I didn't really know that was your word. And I don't do word of the year. I know that you do. I don't. But I know that kind of became a filtering system for us. Does this align with where we want to go? We have a filtering system in place for open houses.
Yep. And how we select them.
Yeah. And literally, I mean, that can be boiled down to, does it align with our goal of getting into higher price points? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And we have a filtering system beyond there. And we'll touch on that in a different one. But
yeah.
And so, yeah, it is really interesting to see that kind of play out. And that kind of brings me to my point. My second biggest lesson was, you have to put yourself in a position to win.
Right.
In a position to achieve your goals. And to be honest, again, we loved our brokerage down there, and like we still love all the people down there. They're still fantastic. We still talk to all of them. It didn't align with where we wanted to be. And to me, I couldn't put myself in a position to win because of some of the policies and stuff that were in place there. And I knew that I wanted to be in front of certain clients, certain people, certain houses, certain products.
Right.
And so I needed to move myself, however dramatically, to a place that transacted in the areas that I wanted to be, right, where they had market share. So for us, we picked North & Co. because they have a foothold in Arcadia, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, and these are some of the areas that we both found value based off of our business model. And so we literally kind of manufactured our way in here, dude. If you've never read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, I know you and I have.
Yes.
But he talks about some of green lights just happen to you, and sometimes you manufacture the green lights. And we very much manufacture this green light, and we're taking full advantage of every opportunity we've been given here because we put ourselves in a position to win, and we're going to continue to do that so that we can achieve our goals long term. I think that was a big one for me.
Yeah, and I really, it's fascinating. I love that you brought that book up because I've listened to it twice.
Don't read it. Don't read it.
Do not read it.
You have to listen to it.
He narrates it. It is the absolute one of the best books to listen to.
Yeah.
That and David Goggins Can't Hurt Me.
I haven't heard that one. Dude.
He narrates that too, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
We digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fact that like with the green lights, it really is, and I hadn't thought about that way until just now, that we've had opportunities that other people have been like, how did you get that?
Yeah.
And we still look for other opportunities here. But there have been a few like really significant times where we've been asked to do things and we've had opportunities to do things here in a very short time at the brokerage. And people have asked, like, come up to us specifically, like, how'd you do that? How'd you get into XYZ or whatever? And it really is like, being aligned and being intentional and getting in the path of the right things has been like, when we make that our basis for making decisions,
Yes.
it makes it easy to make a decision.
Mhm.
You don't think back about it because you're like, I made the best decision I could
Yeah.
at that time
Mhm.
because that aligned with what I wanted and that put me on the right path.
Yeah.
And if it didn't, then we figure it out again.
Yeah.
But you hit the nail on the head, and those green lights are absolutely like, we've hit something.
We've hit a lot of green lights and some red lights or some
Yeah,
yellow lights,
absolutely.
but definitely some things that have just been worked out better than I think either of us could have imagined. And I think it's because we took a shot and we put ourselves in that position to win at a place where we felt really aligned.
And we were clear about what we wanted.
Yes.
And I think that's been the biggest thing where people have, I think when people have asked, it's always come back to us being extremely, like, it's been a result of something we were clear on.
Yes.
And it was an intentional decision.
Mhm.
And it really, I think if we trace them back, I could easily count them on multiple hands. Like, that's the reason why we got that opportunity.
I mean, even so much as like we were very calculated in what area we wanted to work in because of the clients we wanted. And it's not just luxury buyers and sellers, because ultimately we have a goal of developing and flipping and wholesaling. And we needed to be at a place that did that.
Right.
We needed to be at a place that aligned with that and a place that had done it at a high level, which meant putting ourselves in a position to win.
Right.
Because we were going to a place that had a winning track record.
Right. And I think that was one of the biggest things for me is like, I was allowed to do some of the investment things that I wanted to do where we were. And they were willing to go down that path. But I was the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
I was the one, and a lot of it, there were people that would invest, but the way I wanted to wholesale and some other things, it was like, okay, we got to figure out like leading this charge. And I'm all about leading the way. Like, I'm all about taking risks and doing that. But I think with that regard, I was like, I really did want somebody that like, and a place that had a track record, like you said, of doing that, where it's like, hey, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to go where people have done it and we can learn from them and help ourselves learn that faster by being around people like that.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your other one?
My second lesson is, and I'll claim it for 2023, but I think I learned it a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep citing books, but it's in another book I was listening to. They reiterated again, where it's really about, you can never make somebody make a decision. And it kind of segues into like what you said. It's like, it's going to be harder than you think. And I mean, it's going to take longer, but at the end of the day, especially in real estate, and like I've learned it with my kids and other people in just in my sphere, is that you can't force somebody to ever make a decision. And in this book, one of my favorite books, Never Split the Difference, he talks about that in hostage negotiation. People will die for their autonomy to remain intact. And so and it really hit home in 2023, where it's like, I'm not going to make any client ever, or not that I did before, but understand that they're going to make their decision no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'm there to be a guidepost and a guide for them to make the best decision for them. And I'm going to be better at understanding what they want to help them and help kind of synthesize that for them to make the best decision. Yeah. But man, once I stopped, once I really realized and I guess leaned into letting anybody in my life make their own decision and not trying to be like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. It's like, no, man, life, things became easier and so much more clear. And back to my other point, aligned. Yeah. Because it's like, if in the house, for example, somebody will tell me what they want and I'll just say, hey, you know what? These are the points. Here's A, B, and C. And I try and be extremely Switzerland about it. You know, it's like, I'm going to be very objective with hey, based upon what you've told me, here's what I think. I'll give you my opinion. And it's going to be all based on what they say. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, it's your decision. Here's what happens if you do A, choose house A or choose house B. And that's the end of the day. And it's and at the end of the day, we're just going to move forward at 1,000 miles an hour. So you make that decision. Let's go. Yeah. You tell me, and I'm going to run through a wall. I'm like, Wreck-It Ralph. Let's go this way. But that lesson, just being able to have somebody just like give people their autonomy back. I think there's a lot of times when we get that in life now where like it's like we should do this, we should do that, like social media, like we're that's why the people on social media are influencers. You're being influenced by somebody else, but a lot of times I'm gonna get on a soapbox, but like that is not our own identity.
No.
Like that's us trying to assimilate to what everybody thinks is cool. And it really is like, just no, keep your autonomy. And I want to allow people to do that. Like one of my kids, like he danced like crazy. He's the best dancer. We're just like, now it's like, okay, what music is he going to dance to?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what's he going to go crazy? And it's like, he's just telling me, he's like, I don't want to be on stage because there's people. And it's like, he's like, I like to dance at home.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, you dance however you want. And I'm just going to be here to enjoy it.
Yeah, here to foster that. And I think it's the same thing as like, you know, we talked about in a previous podcast that we handle different parts of the transaction very differently, right? I'm more on the logical side. And so for me, that side's a lot easier when I can present data and facts. And I use that to help guide people on the decision process. But there have been many times where despite what the data and the facts say, they make an emotional decision. And I think that's kind of where you pick in on that too. But you're right. Like, just because my job is to present the facts, that's it. And it's up to them and to present the options and maybe talk strategy about if this happens, if that happens, we can do this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, it's up to them. There have been people that have bought, you know, their parents told them to buy new houses. I had a lot of first-time home buyers that were younger.
Yeah.
Parents told them to buy newer houses and they bought a 1950s brick house. That's vastly different than what the data for their needs said. And at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I don't care what house you go with because my job is to just represent your desires, your wants, your needs, and help you get into a safe, comfortable place to live. That's
right.
it.
Yeah. And it's fascinating you say that because I think that goes into where the autonomy,
yes,
you know, it's like if their parents like buy a new house and for XYZ, those could be all logical and safe reasons where they're not going to like you buy a 50s house and you're going to have to deal with sewer scopes and you're going to have to deal with
lead paint
and old houses and all the things that come, all the joys that come with that. But they wanted their autonomy. And like you said, you could have had all the logic in the world and based upon all the smart decisions, they were like, no, F that. We're going to buy an old house.
Yeah.
And you know what? They may not know even why. And that's, I think, the most fascinating thing is like people are going to make decisions for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, all we can do is present it and be their guides.
Yeah. 100%. So, I mean, I think that was our biggest lessons for 2023, man. I think that it was a really good year. It's been a really challenging year. It's been a very rewarding year. I'm excited to see how everything takes shape in 2024. Just to be honest.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think on the real estate side, we've talked about it. It's going to be fantastic.
I think it's going to be more normal than it has been. I don't know if it's going to be crazy around like 2020, 2021, but I do think it's going to be more normal. And I think that the seeds that we've planted over the last 6 months, which hindsight being 2020, the last half of the year was not the time to make a move. We should have done it beginning of the year. Dude,
absolutely, 100%.
The market slows down in the last 2-3 months of the year, and so we really
we've been
picked a weird,
biting, clawing, and scratching. Like it was a tough time, but I do think that we've talked about it. The first couple quarters this year are going to be phenomenal, and it really is. It's like it's going to be what we planted, and I think not just in real estate business, but I think the continued work that we've done and seeing this and like being able to look backwards on the lessons that we've learned and then apply them forward. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Me too. So, well, comment yours, right? I'm going to do that. I'm going to say comment yours below if you're watching this on YouTube. And tell us what your biggest lesson of 2023
absolutely was. Wherever you watch this, if it's on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, absolutely comment below your biggest lesson of 2023. We'd love to see it and talk about it.
Yeah.
Until next time, we'll see you on Real Talk later.
Thanks, guys.